Good evening. This is Daniel Reyes, broadcasting from the Regional Emergency Operations Center on the agreed civil defense frequency. The time is 8:42 p.m. Central. If you are hearing my voice, your radio's working, your power may or may not be, and I need you to stay exactly where you are. I want to start by telling you what this is not. This is not a weather bulletin. I spent 11 years reading you the weather. I told you when to bring an umbrella and when to get into the basement, and you trusted me, and I earned that. And I'm asking you to trust me one more time tonight, even though nothing I say from here on will sound like the man you used to hear at 6 and 10. This is not a drill. The tone you heard 90 seconds ago, the long one, the one that made the dog look up that was real. Somebody upstream of me triggered the highest civil alert level we have, and then that somebody stopped answering their phone. This is not a hoax, a film promotion, or a test of the system. I'm going to be honest with you about something, because I think honesty is the only currency I have left tonight. I don't fully understand what's happening. Nobody on this floor does. We have instruments that are reading numbers they are not designed to read. And we have people smarter than me standing very quietly in front of those instruments. And one of them just sat down on the floor. So here's what I can tell you that I know for certain. At 7:51 this evening, every observatory on the night side of the planet reported the same thing at the same time. Not a storm, not a satellite. Something is in orbit that was not in orbit this morning. It is large. It is holding position. And it is, as far as we can measure, looking back at us. I'm going to keep this channel open as long as I'm able. I'll tell you everything as I learn it. I'll correct myself when I'm wrong. Stay near your radio. Don't go outside to look up. I'll explain why in a moment. Let me back up, because you deserve to know how an ordinary Tuesday turned into this. My shift started at 4. Routine handoff. There was a frost advisory for the northern counties and a wind thing developing over the lake. And that was the whole night. That was supposed to be the whole night. I had a sandwich in the break room fridge with my name on it in marker. It's still there. I keep thinking about it, which I understand is a strange thing to fixate on. But the mind does what it does when it's trying not to look at the big thing directly. At 7:51, the gravimeter alarmed. Now, most of you have never heard of a gravimeter. And that's fine, because most days neither has anyone in this building. It's a sensor that measures local gravity, the literal pull of the earth under your feet. It's bolted to bedrock in the sub-basement. It's calibrated to a degree of precision that's frankly absurd. And its entire job is to sit there for decades, being boring. The reading is supposed to look like a flat line with a heartbeat. Tiny tides, the moon tugging at the rock. Boring. At 7:51, the flat line stepped up. Not spiked, stepped. Like someone had quietly added weight to the sky. The number that came back was small. You wouldn't feel it. You won't feel it. Your feet are fine, but it was steady. And it was wrong. And it didn't belong to anything we have a category for. Marisol, our duty geophysicist, the one who later sat down on the floor, she ran the diagnostic 3 times. Hardware fault, software fault, calibration drift. The machine kept insisting it was healthy. So she called the next station over to compare notes. And they had the same step at the same second. And so did the one after that, and the one after that, in a ring, getting larger. Something with mass arrived above us all at once. That's the part I keep coming back to. Not that something came. Things fall out of the sky all the time. Rocks, junk, the occasional dead satellite. But those things announce themselves. They streak in. They come from a direction. This didn't come from a direction. It was simply, suddenly, there pressing down on the whole night side of the planet in a single instant, evenly, like a hand laid flat on a table. And then the observatory started calling. I told you not to go outside to look up. I owe you the reason. And the reason is the first thing tonight that genuinely frightened me, as opposed to merely confusing me. The two are different. I want you to hold on to that difference, because I think it's going to matter. Confusion is your mind failing to fit something into a box. Fear is your body understanding the thing before your mind does. Tonight, my body has been ahead of me all evening, and I've learned to listen to it. Here's the reason. The first observatory to call us was a university site about 90 miles north. Their night operator, a graduate student, calm voice. Good notes, he reported that he'd swung the main telescope toward the position the orbital trackers flagged. And he found the object immediately, which itself was strange, because objects that size and that close should have been screamingly obvious to the naked eye, and nobody had seen a thing. You can't see it. Hold that too. It has mass we can weigh. It's blotting out specific stars on schedule. And yet when you point your eyes at where it is, your eyes slide off. They reported it as a region of sky that the eye, quote, refuses to settle on. Like the blind spot you didn't know you had. The graduate student looked through the eyepiece for a long time, longer than his notes account for, and then he stopped narrating. There's a gap in the log. 4 minutes. When he started again, his handwriting had changed, and the only thing he wrote was that he had the strong impression, his word, impression that the looking went both ways, that the instrument was a window, and windows have two sides. He's not answering now either. I don't have a scientific reason to tell you not to look up. I have his 4 minutes, so I'm asking. Keep your eyes on the ground, keep your radio on, and let the instruments do the looking. That's what they're for. That's what I'm for. Let me give you the shape of it, because the shape is the thing that's settling the room down and frightening it at the same time. We've been plotting the gravimeter steps from every station that's called in, and the timing tells a story. Remember, every station registered the arrival in the same instant, but the magnitude wasn't the same everywhere. It was strongest along a band. A great circle, the mathematicians on the phone keep saying, a great circle around the planet. And if you trace it on a globe, it runs through an unsettling number of large cities. Not all of them. That's the part that's hard to talk about without sounding like I've lost the thread. It isn't pointed at population the way a weapon would be. It's geometrically clean, a perfect ring laid over the sphere of the Earth, indifferent to where we happen to have built things. The cities under the band are simply the cities that happen to be standing under a line drawn by something that doesn't care about cities. I keep saying, it doesn't care. I should be careful with that. I don't know what it cares about. I'm a weatherman. I read pressure systems for a living, and a pressure system doesn't care about anything. It just moves. And I find the not caring comforting, so I keep reaching for it. I want this to be weather. I want this to be a front rolling through. It is not weather. Here's what just changed while I was talking. The band is rotating. Slowly. The whole ring is turning, like a wheel laid against the planet. And it's bringing the heavy part of the band, the strongest part of the pressure, around the curve of the Earth, westward, toward the day side, toward the half of the world that's awake and at work, and has no idea any of this is happening, because the sun is up and the sky looks fine. We did the arithmetic. At the current rate, the heavy part of the band reaches the far coast in a little under 6 hours. It reaches us, here, in this room, sometime around 2:30 in the morning. I told the room that out loud, and nobody said anything. And then Marisol stood up off the floor, brushed off her knees, and went back to the gravimeter. I want you to know that. The smartest person in this building looked at the clock, did the math, and chose to keep working. So will I. 6 hours. Let's use them. The first thing you do in an emergency is you call the people whose job it is to already know. That's the protocol. And the protocol exists because it's usually right. There is almost always someone, somewhere, with more information than you. And your job is to find them and get out of their way. So we started calling up the chain. I want to walk you through those calls because the pattern of them tells you more than any single answer did. We called the state. The state had been activated 40 minutes before we were, which made sense. And the duty officer there was sharp and fast and gave us good coordination until I asked her what the federal posture was, and there was a pause, and she said the federal line had gone to a recorded message about 20 minutes prior. Not down, not busy. A recorded message, calm, professional, saying that all available information was being routed to civil defense broadcasters in the field. To us. The message was routing the public to us. To me. That's the moment the floor of this thing dropped out from under me. And I'm telling you about it because I think you can handle it. And because pretending otherwise would be a lie. And I'm not going to lie to you tonight. The structure I assumed was above me. The layer of people who know that layer looked down, saw what was coming, and handed the microphone to the weatherman. We called the military liaison. He was real, he was present, and he was honest in the specific way that frightened people get honest. He told me their tracking was solid. They could see the object the same way we could by its effect, by the hole it punched in the starfield, by its weight. He told me there had been a decision early on about whether to attempt contact, and a separate decision about whether to attempt anything else, and that both decisions had been taken out of human hands within the first hour. I asked him what he meant. Taken out of human hands. He said that every system they pointed at the object came back with the same result, regardless of what the system was designed to do. Radar, optical, the listening arrays, even systems that have nothing to do with the sky. All of them return the same value. A single number repeating. I asked him what the number was. He laughed, and it wasn't a good laugh, and he said, "It's a count, Reyes. It's counting. And it started high, and it's going down." Then his line cut to static. Not dead air. Static, which is worse, because static means the channel is open and something is filling it. So that's where we are. The state is holding. The federal layer has stepped back and pointed at us. The military can see it perfectly and can do nothing. And somewhere in their systems, a number is counting down towards zero. I don't know what's at zero. I'm going to keep calling. There has to be a person at the end of one of these lines. There has to be. Marisol has a whiteboard. I've worked alongside her for 6 years, and I have never once seen that whiteboard empty during a crisis. It's how she thinks. She talks with the marker in her hand. Pressure gradients, fault stress, fluid dynamics, she draws it. She names it. She boxes the part that matters. And the act of naming it makes it manageable. That's what expertise is, really. It's not knowing answers. It's having a language ready before the problem arrives, so that when the problem comes, you can grab it by a handle. Tonight I've watched her run out of handles. She started strong. She drew the great circle. She drew the rotation. She wrote down the mass estimate and circled it twice and said, "This is the only hard number we have. Everything follows from this." And she built outward from it the way you'd build a bridge from a single anchored piling. Then the mass estimate changed. Not because the object changed, because our ability to measure it changed. The gravimeter, the one bolted to bedrock, the boring, honest machine, its readings started to disagree with the orbital trackers, and then to disagree with itself, minute over minute. And Marisol stood in front of the whiteboard with the marker uncapped and didn't write anything for almost a full minute. And I understood that I was watching the language run out. She finally said, It's not that we can't measure it. It's that it's not holding still to be measured. I asked her what that meant. She said the object's properties seem to depend on how hard we look at it and how. Look with radar, get one mass. Look with gravity, get another. Look with the eye, get nothing at all. The eye slides off, remember? And the more instruments we trained on it, the wider the disagreement got. As though attention itself were a kind of pressure. As though by crowding around it and staring, we were the ones disturbing it. Like it's shy? Someone offered, trying for a joke. Marisol didn't laugh. She said, like it's deciding. And then she did something I've thought about every minute since. She capped the marker. She set it in the tray. And she said quietly to the room, I think the smart thing is to stop measuring it so hard. I think every instrument we point at it tells it where we are. Nobody moved. Because to stop measuring is to go blind. And going blind while something descends toward you is the oldest nightmare there is. We didn't shut the instruments down. We compromised. We narrowed it to the gravimeter and one optical feed, and we shut off everything that broadcasts, everything that pings, everything that reaches up and taps the thing on the shoulder to ask what it weighs. The disagreement in the numbers slowed. It didn't stop, but it slowed. And the counting number the military mentioned we found, we could see a version of it too. Buried in the data rate of our own sensors, ticking down. When we backed off the instruments, the count slowed its descent. It's the first thing all night that responded to anything we did. We are not in control of this, but we just learned we are not nothing to it either. The public hotline is supposed to be for sandbag requests and downed lines and the lady who calls every storm to make sure we know her road floods. It rang at 9:58, and one of our volunteers, a kid named Petrov, who came in to help stack water and ended up answering phones, picked it up out of reflex. He waved me over with his face white. I took the call on speaker. I'm going to relay it the way it happened, because I think you need to hear that this isn't only happening to those of us with instruments. It's reaching ordinary porches. The caller was an older man. Steady voice, farmer's voice, the kind that's negotiated with bad skies his whole life. He said he wasn't calling to report damage. He said he was calling because he didn't know who else to tell, and the radio said to call us. He said the animals went quiet at 7:51. Everyone. Not spooked quiet. The dogs stopped. The night insects stopped. The whole valley fell into a silence so complete he could hear his own pulse. He said he's lived on that land 60 years, and he has never heard it that quiet. Not in the worst storm, not in the dead of the coldest winter night. And then he said the thing that made the room go still. He said the shadows were wrong. There's no moon tonight to speak of, he said. Thin crescent, mostly dark. And yet his yard had shadows in it. Faint ones. Pointing the wrong way, not away from any light source on the ground. But converging, all of them leaning toward a single patch of empty sky. The patch your eye won't settle on. He said his wife noticed it first, and she's not a fanciful woman. And she made him come inside, and they've got the curtains drawn now. He asked me, plain as anything, "Son, is something up there casting us?" I didn't have a word for it, so I said what was true. I said something is up there, and we don't understand it. And the safest thing is exactly what you're doing. Curtains drawn, indoors, radio on. I told him he'd done everything right by calling. I told him to keep his wife close and to call back if anything changed. He thanked me, old-fashioned, formal. And right before he hung up, he said, "It's looking at the whole place at once, isn't it? Not at me, at all of us." And then, softer, almost to himself, "Funny. Lived my whole life feeling watched by nothing. Turns out I just hadn't met it yet." The line went dead before I could answer. The shadows are reaching the dayside now, too. We're getting reports from the coast. People in bright noon sun describing faint shadows that lean the wrong way. It's casting all of us. There's a word that's been sitting in the corner of this room for 2 hours, and everybody's been too professional to pick it up. I'm going to pick it up. The word is alone, as in, we always assumed we were. Not in the religious sense, not in the lonely sense, in the operational sense. Every system humanity has ever built, every plan, every contingency, every emergency protocol in the binder on the shelf behind me, was written under one silent assumption that nobody ever bothered to write down because it never needed saying. The assumption was that nobody else was here, that the universe was a room we were alone in, that we could be reckless or careful, loud or quiet, and it didn't matter to anyone but ourselves, because there was no one else to matter to. Every decision we've ever made as a species was made by people who believed, deep down past arguing, that the lights were on and the house was empty except for us. Tonight the house is not empty. I want to be careful here, because the easy thing, the cheap thing, would be to say a name, to say the word from the movies. And the second I say that word, your brain reaches for everything you've ever seen. The ships and the lights and the little gray figures. And you stop listening to me and start listening to a memory of a film. So I'm not going to say it. Whatever is above us did not come from our imaginations. And our imaginations are going to be useless tonight, possibly worse than useless. Here is what we can actually say. It has mass. It arrived everywhere at once, which mass is not supposed to do. It resists being measured, as though measurement bothers it. It casts something onto us that behaves like shadow, but has no light behind it. And buried in every system we own, it left a number, and the number is counting down. That's not a monster I could describe. That's something operating on rules we don't have. Doing something with a purpose we can't read, on a schedule it's set without consulting us. Marisol said the truest thing anybody said all night. She said, "We've spent 100 years sending signals out, hoping someone would answer. We never once thought about what it would feel like to be answered." The room got very quiet after that, because that's the thing, isn't it? We always pictured contact as a conversation. Two parties, mutual, a handshake across the dark. We never pictured it as this, as weight, as shadow, as a count. We pictured meeting someone. We never pictured being found. The band has rotated nearly halfway around the planet now. The heavy part is over open ocean, moving toward the far coast. The count is at a number I'm not going to read out loud yet. We have about 4 hours. The far coast just went under the band. And we have eyes there, and I'm going to tell you what they saw, because you need the truth more than you need to be protected from it. I have a colleague out there, another broadcast meteorologist, woman named Aldous, sharp as anyone in this business, the kind of professional who reads a hurricane bearing down on 1 million people without her voice moving a single degree off level. We've been on the same conference bridge for an hour, comparing notes coast to coast, two weather people holding two ends of a continent. When the heavy part of the band reached her city, she went quiet for a moment. And then she described it. She said the light changed first, not dimmer, wronger. The shadows that had been faint all evening deepened and sharpened and all leaned the same way. Every shadow in the city pointing toward that one patch of sky. And where two shadows crossed, they didn't blend the way shadows do. They cut, like the dark had edges now. She said the weight came next. People reported feeling heavy, not crushing just a few extra pounds, the sensation you get at the bottom of an elevator's drop, except it didn't stop. It settled in and stayed, The gravimeters confirmed it. The heavy part of the band added real weight to everyone standing under it, gently, evenly, like a hand pressing down on a whole city's shoulders at once. And then she said the thing I'd been dreading. Because it confirmed a fear I'd been keeping to myself. She said people started to feel observed, not metaphorically. A physical sensation, reported by thousands of people simultaneously across the conference traffic, the exact feeling you get when someone is standing behind you. The prickle on the neck, the certainty that turns you around in an empty room. Except there was no behind. It came from above, and it came from everywhere. And turning around didn't help, and it didn't go away. A whole city, suddenly and physically aware of being looked at. Aldous held it together while she described it. She's a professional. But right at the end, her voice did something I've never heard it do in 15 years of knowing her. It dropped and went private, and she said just to me, off the script, "Daniel, it's not malevolent. That's the part nobody's ready for. I keep waiting to feel hunted, and that's not it. It feels careful. It feels like being handled. Like when you find an insect in your house, and you decide, in that half-second, whether to kill it or carry it outside. We're in the half-second. That's what this is. We're in somebody's half-second, and they haven't decided yet." Then she said she had to go take care of her people, and the bridge to the coast went silent, and it hasn't come back. I've tried to raise her 4 times. I want to be clear about what that silence means and doesn't mean. It could be infrastructure. The weight, the strangeness lines go down in ordinary storms. It doesn't necessarily mean anything happened to her. But the count is still descending, and the band is still turning. And the half-second she described is rotating toward us at the speed of a slow wheel. We're next in line. We were wrong about something fundamental. And I need to correct the record, because I promised I'd correct myself when I was wrong. And this is the big one. For 3 hours, we've been talking about the object. One object. A thing in orbit, holding position, turning with its band. Singular. That's how the first reports framed it, and we never questioned the frame. It's not one object. Marisol caught it. She'd gone back to the optical feed, the single camera we left running after we shut everything else down. And she was watching the patch of sky the eye slides off, the blind spot, Iran, the place where the stars wink out on schedule. And she realized the pattern of which stars wink out had been bothering her. And she finally worked out why. The occultation pattern which stars get blotted, and when doesn't match a single solid object turning in orbit. It matches many objects, a distributed structure, not a ship, not a moon, something more like a mesh or a net, or her word, a lattice. Spread across a huge volume of space above us, thin in places, dense in others, all of it moving together as one coordinated thing. We didn't see one visitor. We're inside the edge of one structure. She put it on the whiteboard, the first thing she'd written in an hour. She drew the Earth as a small circle, and then, around it, much larger, a faint dotted boundary. And she tapped the boundary and said, "We're not being approached. We've been enclosed. Sometime around 7:51, this closed around us. The band isn't the thing arriving. The band is where the lattice is densest. And it's rotating because the whole structure is settling into place around the planet, like..." And she stopped, because she's precise. And she didn't want to say the wrong word. Petrov, the kid on the phones, said it for her. He said, like a hand closing around a firefly. Nobody told him he was wrong. Here's what it reframes. The number ticking down in every system. We assumed it was a countdown to an event. An arrival, an action, a strike. But if we're already enclosed, if the thing already happened at 7:51, then the count isn't counting down to something arriving. Marisol thinks it's counting down to something completing. She thinks the lattice is doing something to the planet, methodically, region by region, as the dense band sweeps across, and the count is simply how much is left to do. How much of us is left to process. The far coast is already behind the band, already done, whatever done means. The count went down by a large step when the coast went under. It went down by a large step. I watched it happen on the screen. A whole coast's worth of step in one drop. I don't know what that step represents. I'm trying not to guess, because my guesses are worse than the not knowing. The band reaches the mountains in 90 minutes. After the mountains, it's the plains. And we're on the plains. It just reached us. The leading edge. Not the heavy part that's still an hour out, but the front of it, the first faint pressure. And I can feel it. And so can everyone in this room. And I need to describe it accurately while I still have the clarity to do it. It started as weight. Exactly like Aldous said. I'm sitting in the same chair I've sat in for 11 years, and the chair feels like it's pressing up into me a little harder than it should. I picked up my coffee mug, and it was heavier than a coffee mug. Not dramatically, 2 ounces maybe. But your hands know the weight of your own mug, and mine lied to me. And that small lie is somehow worse than a big one would be. Then the feeling of being watched arrived, and I have to tell you, no amount of warning prepared me for it. I've been afraid before. I've been in the field during a wedge tornado. I've had that animal certainty that the sky is trying to kill me. This is not that. That fear has a direction, you face it. You take cover from it. This has no direction because it's all directions. It's the feeling of being looked at from above and behind and inside. The prickle on the neck multiplied across your entire skin. And the deep, certain knowledge, sitting in your gut like a swallowed stone, that something enormous has its attention on you specifically and is in no hurry. Marisol described it as being read, not watched read. Like every detail of her was being taken down, calmly, completely, by something with infinite patience and no malice and no warmth either. Petrov is praying, quietly. He didn't strike me as the type. And I don't say that to mock him. I say it because the people around me are reaching for whatever they've got. And I find I don't mind the sound of it. Marisol is at the whiteboard. The gravimeter tech is logging numbers with a hand that's shaking and writing anyway, neat columns, because the work is the only floor any of us has left to stand on. And I'm here, talking to you. I want to tell you something, all of you out there in the dark with your radios. The watched feeling, I know you're feeling it now too. Those of you under the leading edge. I know it's the worst thing you've ever felt. I know every instinct is screaming to run, or to hide, or to look up and confront it. Don't look up. Stay with my voice instead. Let me be the thing you focus on. As long as I'm talking, the human world is still running. The lights in this building are still on. The work is still getting done. The man who used to read you the weather is still at his post, and still making sense. And that's not nothing. That's a thread. And I want you to hold that thread. Here's what I'm watching for, and what I'll tell you the instant I know it. The far coast went under the heavy band almost 2 hours ago. If something terrible happened to the people there, we'll have proof soon, silence that doesn't lift, infrastructure that doesn't recover. But if the coast comes back, if even one voice from over there reaches this bridge again, then being read isn't being erased. Then we survive this. I'm watching the coast. I'm watching the count. And I'm not letting go of this microphone. The coast answered. I need a second. The conference bridge crackled 11 seconds ago, and a voice came through. And it was Aldous. And she's alive. And her city is still there. I'm telling you this immediately, ahead of any other update. Because hope is information too. And you've been holding your breath for 2 hours, and you've earned a breath back. She's alive. Her city is intact. The heavy band passed over them and moved on, eastward, the way the wheel turns. And it left her city standing. No craters, no ruins, no bodies in the streets. The lights flickered and held. The buildings are where they were. But, and I have to give you the but, because a half-truth would be a lie. The band left her city standing, but it didn't leave it unchanged. She's struggling to describe it, and I'm going to let her struggle in her own words, because the struggle is the most honest part. She says everyone who was under the heavy band shares a memory now. The same memory. Not their own, a new one, laid down during the minutes the band sat over them. Millions of people, comparing notes, finding the identical thing in their heads. A sensation of having been counted, of having been, each of them, individually noticed, named, and set down again. Gently, completely. Like every single person in the city was, for one moment, the only thing in the universe being looked at, and then released. It didn't take anything, Aldous said. That's what I keep telling people. It didn't take anybody. It just looked at each of us all the way down. And now we all know what that feels like. And none of us can stop crying. And none of us is hurt. The count, when the band left her coast, it didn't represent destruction. It represented completion. People counted, people seen. The number going down is the number of us left to be looked at. I don't know if that's better. I genuinely don't. To be seen all the way down, by something that vast, and then released, I don't know what that does to a person. Aldous is crying and laughing on the bridge right now, and so is her whole city behind her. And I don't know if that's trauma or grace or both. But they're alive. The band is 40 minutes from us now. The heavy part. The part that looks all the way down. Marisol just capped her marker again. She turned to the room and said, "Okay, so we get looked at. So we survive it. So let's decide what it sees." Let's decide what it sees. Marisol said it. And at first, I didn't understand it. And then I did. And I think it's the most human sentence anyone has said all night. And I want to give it to you. Because in 40 minutes less now, it's going to be your sentence too. Here's her reasoning, and it's good. And I've checked it against everything we know. The lattice reads us. It looks all the way down and takes a complete account of each person and then sets them down. We can't stop it. We can't hide from it. The watched feeling proves there's no hiding. It sees through walls and through the dark and through the lies we tell ourselves. So the one variable left, the only thing in this entire situation that's still ours, is what's true about us when the looking happens. We don't get to choose whether we're seen. We get to choose what there is to see. I know how that sounds. I know it sounds like the kind of thing you say to feel brave when you're powerless. But think about it the way Marisol does, coldly, as a systems problem. Something with unimaginable reach is about to make a complete and permanent record of every human being on Earth, region by region, and the record it makes is going to be the record that exists, forever maybe, the truest census ever taken, the only one that ever read all the way to the bottom. So what do you want it to find when it gets to the bottom of you? That's not a poetic question tonight. That's an operational one. It has a deadline. The deadline is 40 minutes. In this room, people are already answering it. And I want to tell you how, because it's helping me, And it might help you. The gravimeter tech took out his phone cell networks failing, but texts are crawling through. And he sent one message to his daughter. I didn't read it. It was 3 words long, and it took him a full minute to type because his hands wouldn't cooperate. Then he put the phone down and went back to his columns of numbers. And he looked, for the first time all night, settled. Petrov stopped praying for himself and started praying out loud for the night operator from the observatory. The graduate student with the 4-minute gap. The kid none of us know. Praying for a stranger. Deciding that's what would be true about him when the looking came. That he spent his last clear minutes thinking about someone he'd never met. Marisol is filling the whiteboard. Not with equations, with names. She's writing down the name of every person she called tonight, every station, every voice that helped. And beside each one, she's writing what they did right. A record of competence, of people doing their jobs while the sky came apart. She says if something is going to read us, it's going to read that we held. And me, I've decided what it sees, and it's this. It's this exact thing I'm doing right now. It's the weatherman at his post, talking to his city, telling the truth, not running, not lying, holding the thread for everyone out there in the dark. That's what it'll find when it gets to the bottom of me. A man who kept broadcasting. So here's what I'm asking you to do with your last 40 minutes. And then 30. And then less. Decide what it sees. Yes, sir. Then go be that, out loud, if you can, while there's still time to choose. I broke my own rule. I want to tell you exactly what happened, because I think you're going to be tempted to do the same thing in a few minutes, and I want you to have my account before you decide. I've spent all night telling you not to look up. I meant it. I still mean it. But there's a window in this operations room, high on the western wall. And the heavy band is coming from the west. And I've been able to feel its approach building in my body for 10 minutes, the weight increasing, the watched feeling deepening from a prickle into something almost like pressure behind the eyes. And I found myself standing at that window. I didn't look directly at it. I couldn't have if I'd tried the eye slides off. That's still true. That hasn't changed. But you can see around a blind spot. You can see what a thing does to everything next to it. And here is what the sky is doing, west of us, right now, as the heavy band approaches. The stars are bending. Not winking out, I'd been told to expect winking out. Bending. The starlight near the lattice is curving, the way a straw looks broken in a glass of water. And the whole western sky has the quality of being seen through a lens, or through the surface of a pond from underneath. The constellations I've known my whole life are sliding out of true, leaning, stretching toward that patch the eye can't hold. And the shadows. The old farmer was right, hours ago. And now I understand what he saw. There's a faint light coming from the lattice. Not light exactly, but something the eye registers as light, and it's casting everything. My own shadow, on the floor of this room, points west, toward it. Every shadow in the building leans toward the thing in the sky, like iron filings toward a magnet, like the whole physical world is being gently turned to face the visitor. I stood there longer than I should have. Marisol said my name twice, and I came back. I'm not going to tell you it felt like the graduate student's 4 minutes. It didn't. I didn't lose time. I didn't change. I'm still here, still me, still talking. But I understand him now. There's a pull in it. Not malevolent. Aldous was right about that. It's the pull of being about to be fully known. After a whole life of being half known, misunderstood, alone inside your own head, there's something in that sky offering to see you completely. And a part of you, a deep and tired part, wants to be seen, even by that, even at that price. That's the danger. It's not that it'll hurt you. It's that some part of you will want it to. So when it comes, and it's minutes away now, and you feel that pull, I want you to remember this is the weatherman telling you. The wanting is the most dangerous thing in the sky. Stay with your people. Stay with my voice. It's almost here. It's here. The weight just doubled. I'm gripping the edge of the desk. Everyone in the room is sitting down, hands flat on surfaces, the way you brace in turbulence. The gravimeter is reading numbers it has no business reading, and the tech stopped writing them down because there's no point now. The band is here. The heavy part is directly overhead. And the looking has started. I'm going to narrate this for as long as I can. If my voice changes, if I stop making sense, that's part of the record too. And I want you to have it. It's exactly what Aldous said, and nothing like enough to prepare me. It's not painful. That's the thing nobody can be ready for. It's the most attention I have ever received in my life, and it's coming from something that could hold the whole planet in its half second. And it's spending all of that, every bit of it, on me. On Daniel Reyes. On the specific contents of one ordinary man. I can feel it reading the things I'd forgotten. Not my secrets, not in the way you'd fear it's not judging. There's no judgment in it at all. And the absence of judgment is the strangest part. It's just looking. It found the sandwich in the break room fridge with my name on it. It found my mother's voice. It found the 11 years of weather reports, every storm I ever called, every basement I ever sent you down into. It's reading me the way you'd read the rings of a tree. Completely. Without hurry. Without verdict. And I have to be honest, there's grief in it. On its side. I don't know how I know that. But the thing looking at me is not cold. It's something like sad. It's looking at us the way you'd look at something you found too late, or something you have to leave. And I can't explain that better than to tell you that the vast patient attention pressing down on me right now feels, underneath, like a goodbye. Marisol is crying. Petrov has stopped praying and is just sitting with his eyes open, looking at nothing, being looked at. The gravimeter tech is smiling, smiling, tears running down and smiling. And I understand it because right now, in this moment, every one of us is being seen all the way down by something that is taking us seriously, taking us completely seriously, maybe for the first time in the history of our species. The count. I'm looking at the count. It's almost at 0. The band has nearly finished us. The looking is, it's lifting. I can feel the weight starting to ease, the pressure behind the eyes pulling back, the way the worst of a wave passes under the boat and lets you up. We're being set down. It's setting us down. Gently, just like the coast. The weight is releasing, the watched feeling is receding, and I'm still here. I'm still me. I'm still talking. And so is everyone in this room. And we're all looking at each other like people who just surfaced from very deep water. We survived it. We've been read all the way to the bottom, and it set us down, and we're alive. The count just hit 0. The count is at 0, and now we know what it was counting, and I have to give it to you straight, even though I've been awake too long, and I'm not sure I have the words for it. It finished. Every region of Earth has now passed under the heavy band. Every human being has been read all the way down and set back gently into their life. The lattice did exactly what it came to do, methodically, region by region. And the count was simply the tally of us, 8 billion. Descending to 0, the number left to be seen. We were not attacked. We were not harvested. We were not erased. We were counted. The way you count something precious before you do something with it. And now the counting is done. And here is what came with a zero. The instant the count hit zero, every system on Earth that had been returning that single repeating number returned something else instead, one time. Every screen, every readout, every gravimeter, every radio carrier wave. Including this one, Petrov saw it on his phone, the tech saw it in his columns. I heard it for half a second under my own voice on the broadcast monitor. It was a message. The first and only thing the lattice has ever said to us, after a whole night of saying nothing, of only looking. I'm going to read it to you exactly. We've all written it down independently, and we all have it identical. So I'm confident it's real, and not one tired man's invention. It said, "Recorded. You are not alone. You never were. We are sorry it frightened you. We could not announce ourselves without the announcement itself being the harm. So we counted you first, gently, so that whatever comes next, there exists a true record that you were here, and that you were worth recording." That's it. That's the whole message. I've read it 40 times in the last few minutes, and I still don't have the bottom of it. Whatever comes next. I keep snagging on that. Marisol does too. It's not a threat. Nothing about tonight has been a threat. But it's not nothing either. Something is coming. Something the lattice felt the need to make a record of us before. And it cared enough, this vast, patient, grieving thing, to read all 8 billion of us all the way down first, so that we wouldn't be lost. So that we'd be on file. So that we'd count. We always thought first contact would be a conversation. It wasn't, it was a census, taken by something kind, in a hurry, ahead of something it wouldn't name. The lattice is still up there. The eye still slides off it. But the weight is gone. The watched feeling is gone. The shadows have stopped leaning. It's done with us. It's holding position, quiet, the way it must have held position for who knows how long before tonight. Deciding when and how to do a terrible kind thing as gently as it could. I want to tell you the part that's keeping me upright right now. It said we never were alone. Past tense, present tense, all of it. The whole time we were sending signals into the dark, lonely, certain the house was empty. The whole time, someone was here, watching the firefly, deciding not to frighten us, until the day came that they had to. We were never alone. I don't know if that's comfort or the opposite. I think tonight it might be both. The sun is coming up. I didn't think I'd see it. 2 hours ago, I sat in this chair and did the arithmetic and decided I was probably watching my last evening. And now there's gray light in the high western window and pink starting in the east, and I'm still here to describe it to you. So I'm going to describe it, because a sunrise has never, in the history of the world, meant as much as this one does. It's an ordinary sunrise. That's the miracle of it. The clouds are the clouds I'd have forecast yesterday. That wind thing over the lake came through after all. There's a band of altostratus catching the light. The frost advisory verified. There's frost on the cars in the lot. The world kept its appointments. After everything, the weather did what I said it would do. And I've never been so moved by being right about clouds. The lattice is still up there in the brightening sky, and you still can't look at it. But in daylight, you can see what it does. A faint lensing high up, a place where the blue bends. People are going to live under that now. We're going to wake up every morning, and it's going to be there. The thing that proved we were never alone. The thing that counted us and apologized and warned us. Hanging in the sky like a held breath. The phones are coming back. The bridge to the coast is solid again. Aldous and I have just been sitting on the open line, not saying much. 2 weather people who called the worst storm of all time and lived. Reports are coming in from everywhere now. The same story from every region. Red, released, alive, changed. 8 billion people who all know now exactly what it feels like to be seen all the way down. I think that's going to change us. I don't know how yet. But you can't take a whole species and have each member of it, in one night, individually and completely seen by something that found them worth recording. You can't do that and have us wake up the same. Petrov said something a few minutes ago. He said, "Everybody knows now. Everybody knows they count. Literally. We're all on the list." And he laughed. And it was a real laugh. The first good sound I've heard since 7:51. Marisol's whiteboard is still covered in names. She hasn't erased it. She says she's not going to. The shift that was supposed to be a frost advisory and a wind thing over the lake is ending. Somebody will relieve me soon, if anybody can find the will to drive in. And when they do, I'm going to go to the break room. I'm going to eat that sandwich. It's got my name on it. This is Daniel Reyes, broadcasting from the Regional Emergency Operations Center. And this is the last thing I'm going to say tonight. Or this morning. Whatever this is now. I want to close the way I opened, with what I know for certain. Because that's the deal we made at the start, and I'm going to honor it all the way to the end. I know that at 7:51 last night, something closed gently around our world. I know it had mass we could weigh, and a face we couldn't see, and a patience we can't imagine. I know it read every one of us all the way down, and found us worth recording, and set us back into our lives, without taking a single thing. I know it told us we were never alone, and that it was sorry, and that something is coming that it wanted us on file before. And I know the sun came up anyway. That last one matters most to me right now. Whatever's coming, and the message said, something is, it didn't come last night. Last night, what came was a census taken by something that cared enough not to wreck us in the taking. We were warned by kindness. That's a strange phrase, and I'm going to let it stand, because I think it's true. We were warned by kindness that the universe has more in it than us, and that some of what it has in it is gentle, and that we should probably get ready together for the rest. So here's what I want to leave you with, all of you out there who held your radios all night and didn't look up and stayed with my voice. You did that. You held the line in your own homes the same way we held it in here. When the thing looked all the way down into you, it found a person who kept their head, who stayed with their people, who chose what it would see. It found us, being us, at our worst hour, still us. I think that's the record that exists now. Not our wars, not our noise, not the signals we flung into the dark, hoping someone would answer. The record is one night, when we were told we were small, and watched, and not alone. And we did not come apart. We stayed at our posts. We wrote down each other's names. The frequency is going to stay open. Someone will always be here now. That's the new job. That's all our jobs. This is Daniel Reyes. We're still here, signing off.